everyone, and welcome back with Farm with Carm. If you want to see how I was able to make these 2 raised garden beds for under $100, then tune in for the video. Now the first piece of wood you'll see is the 4x4x8 red cedar, and this holds the raised garden beds on the corner and makes it very nice and sturdy. And most of the wood I purchased was cedar and pine. So the first one we have is the 1x6x8 yellow pine. And then next, right on top of each other, we have the 1x4x8 yellow pine, as well as the 2x4x8. And then here is the big one, which is the Cedar Picket Fence. And then last but not least, the 1x2x8 pine furring. And this is all you need. As you may know, I am making 2 raised garden beds, so it may look like I have a lot. But if you're doing 1, just cut all of those numbers in half. I will be sure to include the exact instructions for the cutout measurements in the description box below. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments and ask. Okay, now that we have our wood cut, it's time to take that red cedar and those cedar planks and start setting up the sides of our raised garden bed. And we're gonna do it like so. Now this is how we're looking, all lined up. And as you can see, I have the boards flush to the bottom with the excess on the top. Now it's time to pre-drill those holes. And you're just gonna put 2 in each. For those who may be like me and need very detailed instructions or are a visual learner, I decided to show you all again exactly how I do it with the other one sitting up as an example. So as of right now, all of your cedar plank fencing as well as red cedar should be in your raised garden bed, and you should still have your other wood pieces off to the side ready to be added. Next, you are going to add those 2x4x8 pieces that you cut in fourths along the middle of each side to add for additional support on the inside of your raised garden bed. After you've went in and positioned all the pieces of wood, you're going to go in again with your drill as well as your wood screws and secure it to the inside of your raised garden bed. Continue to secure the rest around the inside of the base, and then next you're going to add your yellow and white pine along the sides. If you notice, the longer white pine you'll put along the longer end of the raised garden bed, and the shorter pine you'll put on the short side. And you're just going to end up using your finish nails to hammer those in. Although this is a DIY project, I will say I definitely recommend that more than one person work on this, especially when it comes to cutting the wood and trying to get everything positioned when it's time to hammer and drill in those screws and nails. So as you can see, I have now flipped over the raised garden bed to where the legs are no longer facing up, but they are now facing down. And I know you probably see that there are gaps at the bottom. So if you are not able to make it flush against the ground when you position it, then you can always add a strip of maybe pine furring or any thin piece of wood that you find. I ultimately ended up going to Home Depot and grabbing a piece of wood, and it was probably about $5 just to cover up the bottom of my raised garden beds because I was not able to successfully put it up against the ground once I added my cardboard boxes and landscape fabric in the back. And now it is time for the most exciting part, which I feel like is adding the trim, because that means we're almost done and we're seeing if that trim actually fits the way that we think it is. And this was my first time ever having to cut something like this, so you guys, it's not perfect. And this is my first time ever building a raised garden bed from scratch. So, you know, we strive for progression and not perfection. I want you all to see that on the longer pieces of the board, I screw in 2 wood screws, and on the other shorter pieces, I screw on 1 screw. So each side has 3 screws on them. And I will say you have to watch out and make sure that you don't split the wood. I did not experience the wood splitting, but I do know that it seemed like it might. So if you know how to prevent that, please share, or just make sure when you're building yours that you look out for that. I'm not sure if it would have been better to put finish nails at the top, but I did want it to be secure, and it is meant to kind of rest on a little bit and put some gardening tools on there while you're working. So I wanted to go in and use the screws. To be fully transparent, this is my very first full growing season, so I'm definitely learning as I grow. And you may be able to see it a little bit in the background, but I have my grow bags out there in the backyard that I have actually been using since the fall, and I was only able to successfully grow tomatoes as the aphids ended up attacking my okra. So this will be the first go around of me fully growing fruits and vegetables and seeing the yield that I get. But I decided to go big or go home with going on and building the raised garden beds and making the kitchen garden exactly how I wanted. I wanted to be able to make a space that was relaxing and enjoyable for me to come out to every single day to tend to my garden. And I just hope that this video inspires you to want to do the same for yours. It doesn't have to be this big or as massive. If you want to start smaller, then feel free to do that. I know I'm starting a little bit bigger, but again, this is something that made me happy and what it was that I saw for myself in my backyard.